Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in to the SHC Business Podcast. I am your host, Ethan Sisk, and today we'll be featuring a pharmaceutical sales account director with 30 years in the industry, Nancy Borden. In today's episode, we'll be talking about the importance of relationships in the industry, the type of medicine Nancy currently works with, and the requisites for therapeutic approval. Good morning, Ms. Borden.
Good morning. How are you, Ethan?
I'm good. Thank you for coming on.
You're welcome. Thanks for inviting me. I'm excited to be here today.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Let's see. I am married. I'm a mom of two. I have a 15-year-old boy and a soon-to-be 25-year-old boy who graduated from Auburn, and my younger goes to Baker High School. He's a freshman. I am an only child.
Me too.
Are you? Good.
Yes,
I still, my dad is still living, so I love having him around and very active in my life, which is a great thing.
Is he local?
He is. He lives about maybe 7 minutes from me in traffic, so
That's great.
That's great. As you know, I'm an alum of Spring Hill College. I graduated back in '91. I loved my time here on the Hill. I was a Tri-Delta, and I was a Spring Hillian, and I graduated with a marketing degree.
The Spring Hillian, is that like an ambassador for the school?
Yes.
Okay.
Back then it was called the Spring Hillian, and I enjoyed, speaking to other prospective students about Spring Hill and all the wonderful things that it could bring, to your college time. It's, it was a lot of fun, and Spring Hill has a lot of things to offer, so I enjoyed that aspect of being an ambassador.
Now you're in pharmaceutical sales.
I am. It's kind of an interesting story in that when I was in college, I really didn't know what I wanted to be. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and all I could say was...
Like most of us.
Yes. And all I could say is that I could see myself wearing a suit, walking into a big building carrying a briefcase. That was about the extent of what I knew. And I changed my major a couple of times while I was here at Spring Hill.
You finished in marketing?
I did.
What were the changes?
One was accounting and one was economics. And I look back and go, what on earth was I thinking? So marketing's definitely more my style. And so I was working for a company actually while I was going to Spring Hill, and part of my job was to look at magazines and pull out articles about printing companies. And I came across a article about pharmaceutical sales, and it just interested me. And so I went home and told my mom and dad, and our next door neighbor had used to work for a company, Pfizer Pharmaceuticals.
That's one of the big boys.
Big ones, yes. And he had worked there most of his life. And so I called him and said, hey, I'm interested in pharmaceuticals. Do you have any tidbits of information for me? And he said, well, I'm retired. I haven't been there in a while, but I have a name of somebody. So give them a call. And so I did. And through a series of events, I went through a couple of interviews. The first job that I interviewed with Pfizer, I did not get. But undoubtedly, I had made an impression with them. And so I was sent to Atlanta with the regional business director, and I interviewed, and I got that position, and I was in Tallahassee, Florida for about 4 years and loved working for Pfizer. Great company. I learned a lot. And then you know how I think a lot of times we always think that maybe the grass is greener on the other side, and I had done pharmaceutical, and I thought, well, what else is out there? And so I actually went and worked for a nonprofit organization called Hospice. It was called Big Bend Hospice in Tallahassee. And I did quality assurance, and I was the director of education. And so I did a lot of things there. And then my husband and I were moving to Tennessee for him to go to physician assistant school. And so I had to look for another position. And there was a company by the name of, at that time, Teva Marion Partners, and they were coming out with a product for multiple sclerosis. And so I interviewed with them, and one of the main questions that they asked me was, I went from a for-profit pharmaceutical company, Pfizer, to a nonprofit organization, hospice, and they were like, why did you decide to do that? And, I don't think I really had a good answer other than I just wanted to try something different.
Mm-hmm.
And what is funny when you look back, I got that job with Teva Mary and Partners, and we were bringing to market a multiple sclerosis drug. And part of my job was I was a sales rep. I would be calling on physicians and introducing our new drug. But I would also be working with the MS societies, which were nonprofit organizations.
So you had the nonprofit experience.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
I had the pharmaceutical and the nonprofit. And so for this company, it was a great match because I was able to work. I knew both sides of the business,
Did you foresee that when you went into nonprofit? You're like, maybe I could use it later?
Absolutely not.
Wow.
Had no idea.
God's plan.
Yes, it was. It was definitely God's plan. And I, because when I was in that, it was a 4-hour interview with Teva when I interviewed for that Teva position. And, that was one of the first questions was why?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I was thinking fast on my feet. I said, because I knew this job was going to become available and I wanted to have both the experience, and they laughed with me. But I was with that company for 15 years.
Wow.
And was a sales rep, and then I was a sales trainer. And then I eventually went into market access, which is managed care, calling on health plans.
When you were a sales trainer, what were the most practical techniques you would teach your trainees?
Is really the total office call. So when you are a sales rep, especially in the pharmaceutical industry, but this can go for any industry, you're walking into an office and you have to get by like the gatekeeper, who is usually the receptionist. And then, the doctor works not only with the receptionist, but maybe their nurse practitioner, their PA, their nurses. And so the total office call is making sure that as a sales rep, you are including everyone, because everybody has a role to play in that office.
Mm-hmm.
And although, maybe your ultimate target is that physician, those nurses and assistants are huge and so important. And so that's the one main thing that I taught when I was a sales trainer is be kind to everyone, and make sure that you're not only just talking to the doctor, that you're talking to the others in the office, because everybody touches that patient and they need to be aware of maybe what you're bringing to the table.
When you're selling, who exactly are you selling to? The doctors or the pharmacies?
When I was when I was in my sales rep role,
yes.
I was selling to doctors and nurse practitioners, physician assistants.
And they're under the pharmacy?
Well, no, they're just like in their doctor's offices. Okay. And so as a sales rep for a drug company, you have your different products that you're selling
mm-hmm.
or promoting, so to speak. And so my job was to go in and talk to the physician, the nurse practitioner, and explain to them about my product, what it was, and how it benefited their patients. So let's say, for an example, if a patient came in and had an infection and they needed an antibiotic, and if I sold an antibiotic, I wanted to make sure that I had listed all my clinical benefits for that physician. So when that patient comes in and needs an antibiotic, they want to choose my drug.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would write that prescription, which would then in turn go to the pharmacy. You would pick it up and you would take the medication. So that was my job as a sales rep. My job as an account director in the market access side of the business is different.
And now you're an account director.
I am. I've been an account director for going on almost 20 years now. So I've been in the industry over 30.
Wow.
And so my job is to, I cover the states of Alabama and Florida right now. And so I call on like in Alabama, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama,
mm-hmm.
or Alabama Medicaid, and then a lot of different health plans in Florida. And I just want to make sure that those health plans are aware of the products that I represent and that what we call utilization management criteria. It's what a health plan writes up to make sure you're able to get that product, that you meet the requirements. I want to make sure that my product, the criteria, meets the package insert of the product that I have. And so that's kind of my role now. But in a pharmaceutical biotech industry, you really don't work in a silo. You work as a team. And so my job is to provide the access for the physicians to write my product. The sales reps are to go in and to promote our product to the physicians for them to write for their patients when they come in.
As a sales rep, how much technical knowledge is needed when presenting a medicine?
A pretty good. We go through a rigorous training, and whenever new drugs come out, we go through like the disease state. We learn all that information, and then we learn about our particular product that's going to go in that disease state. You don't have to be like a nurse or a physician in order to be a pharmaceutical sales rep or in the market access division, although we do have many nurse practitioners and physician assistants.
I feel you'd have a great deal of knowledge if you were one of those as a past career, and then now you can just sell. Most
definitely. They definitely have I guess you could say, a leg up in that, their clinical knowledge is a huge benefit for the company.
You said your husband was a physician?
No, my husband actually works. He's a general manager, VP for a trucking company here in Mobile.
Oh, yes. Wow. I got those turned around.
That's okay. That's all right. But I love my job. I love what I do. It's one of those things that when I get up in the morning, each day's different. And I like that. I like that, I have my goals and my objectives for the month, for the 6 months, for the year. But each day, one day I might have 3 calls with my accounts that, I'm on Zoom most of the day. Then like today, I'm meeting with you, but then I'll be traveling to Birmingham for a meeting with my account tomorrow.
Yes.
So it's just, each day is definitely a new day and something different that I'll be doing.
Well, I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come do a recreational podcast.
Thank you. I'm enjoying it.
So when you're selling a medicine, is it like if you can catch it before it has FDA approval and like get behind it and learn about it, and then like is there a bigger chance for margins if you can sell it right when it's approved?
Yeah, that's it. With a pharmaceutical product, there is lots of rules and regulations, and so we have to abide by what the FDA says, and so. They make sure that our package insert, meets all the criteria. And then that's really what we speak to. We can't speak to if a product is being used what we call off-label. Maybe a physician decides to use a product that maybe it's not indicated for, say, in migraines, but the physician is trying to use it there.
Misuse, yeah.
We don't, I can't speak to that. I just speak to what's on the label. That's what's most important.
Yes, ma'am.
And we really can't speak to the public about the product until we are given the go-ahead. So a lot of times when products are like in the pipeline, we can talk about the disease state that maybe they'll be coming out in. And so that's what we'll do, but we cannot speak about the product until it's actually been approved and it's on the market.
Okay. I know in the pharmaceutical industry and sales, you said it's important to have relationships with everyone, but who is the most important person to foster a relationship with?
I would still go back to, the physician or the nurse practitioner or the physician assistant are the ones that actually will write the actual prescription for a product. But you have to have those relationships with everybody because especially in the industry that I work in right now, with ours is biotech products, so specialty products. Everybody touches that product, and so you need to make sure everybody is aware of the product, the good points, the side effects, how it's stored. So you really need to speak to, the nurse, the doctor, the nurse practitioner, the biologic coordinator, whoever's in the office. They all need to be spoken to and information given to them.
What's an example of a biotech medicine?
You could say, like right now, one of my products is Dupixent, and it's an injectable medication, and it's considered a biotech. So there's lots of drugs that are out there on the market. They're usually given, you get them from like a specialty pharmacy that's usually like delivered to your home, and you usually get injection training with it. It's usually refrigerated, so it's not like if you have a cold or if you have an infection and you go to the doctor and you get your prescription for, let's say, an antibiotic, you take that to the pharmacy and then they give you your bottle of pills.
Yeah.
With any of the biotech specialty products, they are usually most of the time kept in a refrigerated area. They're shipped to you on dry ice. You have to have training from a nurse in order to understand how to give the medication. So it's a little bit more involved than, say, just taking a medication for maybe a respiratory infection.
So the patients get training themselves on
Yes.
how to prescribe?
How to take the medicine.
Yeah.
Both the physician and the caregiver get training, because sometimes maybe the patient can't give the medicine themselves, so the caregiver would do that.
Are you the one that gives the information to the physician to relay it to the client?
I do not. I actually really just speak to the health plans. So I'm talking to the pharmacy directors and the medical directors of the different health plans, explaining to them about our product and the benefits, the clinical benefits of our product, to where we make sure that they cover our products. The sales reps are the ones that actually speak to the physicians, and then they are the ones that prescribe it to the patient, and they speak to the patient. And then if they're going to be trained at home or maybe virtually, it's usually a registered nurse that will speak to the patient and give them the actual training to take the medication.
Makes sense.
Yes.
Has there ever been a case when you or someone in your family came down with something and you knew of a medicine that could help them and you go for it directly?
Yeah, yes. To answer your question, yes. With a lot of times when I've had some friends that have been diagnosed with some things that, that I was familiar with. And so I would actually, talk to them about the different options that might be out there. But ultimately, they went to their physician and they spoke to their physician about what drug was best for them, because I'm not a physician. I have a marketing degree and I represent a company, but I do not give any type of, medical information. But at least I do know about the disease states and stuff like that, and I can at least maybe help to direct them to a website that they could go on and learn about, because especially with a lot of chronic diseases that people have, there's a lot of companies out there that have a lot of support. They have websites that they can go to. They have patient support groups that they can be a part of. So I can help direct them to those things.
Are there any, I've heard of people wanting to enter the industry but kind of pulling back because maybe ethical concerns. Is that something, I know it's a business and at the end of the day.
I think within any business, you can have ethical concerns within any business. I think you have to abide by the rules and the regulations of whatever industry that you're in, and always be a good person. Don't step out of those lines that you're not supposed to. And I don't think that is just for the pharmaceutical or the biotech industry. I think that's for any industry. There's always ways that you could be unethical, but I think for you as a person need to choose to stand for your beliefs and to not
Yes, ma'am.
One thing I think that I would want your listeners to know, no matter what industry that they go into, that, always be your best self, learn all that you can, and know that every job you take, every role you take, it's leading you to your next adventure. I can look back at my career and I see where, I worked for the pharmaceutical, and then I worked for a nonprofit, and I brought both of those skill sets together, and then I worked for a company that combined those. And so everything that I've done, that even though the decisions I made along the way, sometimes I was like, oh, am I making the right decision? I look back and yes, with God's help, he knows our path. He knows the steps that we're going to take. And so I think trusting in him and then just making your best decisions that you can will lead you for a wonderful life and being in a job that you love. And I think that's, I think earlier we had talked about, my son, he has always been very passionate about fitness. And so he's actually beginning to start his own business. He's taken a chance, and he's going to go out there and be a fitness coach. He's going to have an online presence. His company's name is...
That's terrific.
Yeah, thank you.
So there's no brick and mortar?
No, not right now. Maybe at some point.
Yes, but like the business plan, has he gone into it with you at all?
Just a little bit. He's really in the beginning stages.
Yeah.
He's meeting with lawyers and banks and getting all of the ducks in a row, because starting your own business is... I'm very proud of him. I probably could not do what he's doing, but I'm very proud of what he's doing. And he has a passion for fitness. He has since he was in high school. And it's just something that, no matter what, it's been there for him. And so he decided this year to take a chance and to start his own business. So maybe in a year I can come back and give you an update on where he is. But
that'd be super cool.
It's called Clarity Fitness, and I'm very proud. And so I look at him, and then I look at myself. I did the route of I work for a company, and I'm an employee of somebody. He wants to be his own boss. So I think for all the students here at Spring Hill, and they're trying to decide what do they want to do and where they want to go. One of the things that I'm a firm believer is find your passion, find what you're passionate about. And I think earlier in the podcast, we had talked about, me, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, that all I could see was me walking into a big building, carrying a briefcase and having a suit on. And after I graduated from Spring Hill and I got my job with Pfizer, I was moved to Tallahassee. That's where I was working. And one of my first days on the job, I had my suit on, and I had my briefcase, which had some of the medications and stuff that I was representing at that time. And I was walking into this hospital, and it was this huge building, and it was mirrored. And I'm walking, and I can see myself. I'm in a suit, I'm carrying a bag, and I'm walking into a big building. And I stopped and was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing exactly what I wanted to do. I just didn't know that it was pharmaceuticals. I didn't grow up wanting to be a nurse or a doctor or a teacher. That wasn't, I just knew I wanted to be in business. And so that was a very wonderful moment for me to see myself exactly in that mirrored building, exactly how I had pictured myself years ago. So I kind of felt like I'd accomplished, a goal of mine.
Good. Is the company you're with, are they also a manufacturer of medicines?
Well, yeah, our company, it's most pharmaceutical companies, we have all kinds of different divisions within it. And one of them, of course, is research and development. And those are the scientists that, come up with all the wonderful medications that we have, across the country. And it's a long process, and I really do not know all the ins and outs of all of that. But as it comes to market, and that goes through the different phases and the trials, and if the FDA approves it, then it goes out onto the market, and that's when my team and the sales representatives, that's when kind of we get involved. But it's not until the FDA has given their approval. I will say with being in the biotech pharmaceutical industry, it's very much, at least with the company I work for, it's a very team oriented approach. You don't work in a silo. What I do in managed care or market access affects what the sales representatives do out in the field. And so, communication, collaboration, and teamwork is huge within the industry in which I work.
Gotcha. So were you talking about journeys and getting to sales and then accounts? Do you feel like you found the right spot, or is there something else you want to go for?
It's so funny that you ask, because that's a conversation that I have with my manager pretty much on a yearly basis. I'm very happy where I am. I love my position. I'm considered a senior regional account director, and I love it. Each day brings something new. So for right now, especially with my son being 15 and still in school, a lot of times for me to like move up and do other roles, it would mean uprooting and moving. And that's not something that I'm interested in right now. But I do continue to learn, because after my son graduates in 3.5 years and goes to college or technical school or whatever he chooses to do, then I might need to reevaluate then. And there might be another role within the company that I'm interested in. I don't know that, but for right now, I'm very happy with what I'm doing.
Yes, ma'am.
But I don't stop learning. I'm constantly asking my manager or my colleagues, to put me in different working groups, or, I work with other people just to learn their job, to where I'm constantly gaining that knowledge. So if in 3.5 years from now I do want to change, I haven't been stagnant in this role. I've continued my education.
That's good. Another thing I read about you is that you're into photography.
Yes, it's I'm not professional by any stretch of the imagination. It's just something that I really enjoy doing. I love capturing my family and friends, that when they don't know that I'm taking pictures, when they're just in their everyday life or they're laughing at a joke, I love to get their inner beauty, I guess you call it. That's something that I really enjoy. I've always usually, had a camera in my hand. I will say now that, smartphones have gotten so smart, and the cameras have gotten so good, I use my phone a lot to take those pictures. But I love to look back and look at all the ones that I've taken over the years.
Yeah, pictures are everything. What's the saying? A picture is 1,000 words.
Yes.
I'm trying to get into videography. I'm doing it with this a little bit for the podcast, but I'm going to Europe this summer with my family, and I really want to get not a documentary, but like a.
Oh, you should. You should document.
Yeah.
Do a documentary.
Sure.
Ethan's travels through Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that would be great. I love that.
There's a lot online that I watch on travel advice and tips, and it's just mind-blowing. So to recreate something like that on my own.
I think that would be extremely cool. And if you do that, I want to see it.
Sure,
I would like to.
sure.
I would like to see that.
I know I'll have one viewer. So
there you go. You got me. You've got me.
Do you have any advice on cameras?
If you would have asked me a couple of years ago, I probably could have told you. I've always used I like Canon cameras, but that's the one that I still have at home, that I've had probably since Avery was born, because I got a really nice camera right before he was born. And I giggle because both of my kids, they see a camera come out or my phone, they just automatically smile, because they know it's just easier for them to smile and get the picture over with than
battle.
Because a lot of my girlfriends, their children, like when everybody would be going to a prom or a homecoming or whatever, they would ask me, Nancy, would you come and take pictures of the kids? Because all the kids knew Miss Nancy's taking pictures.
Don't play.
Don't just smile. Yeah. It'll be much, because I would pester them to death. So they just learned just to smile and take a picture.
So I know some cameras are better at photography than others. I mean, it's more clarity in the image quality. But is that the same for video? Like if this camera's better for photography, is it automatically better for video?
Not necessarily.
No.
Not necessarily. And especially in, today with, all of the things that, we've come so far that, I'm sure that there are probably some cameras and that both do videography and cameras really well. A lot of people that I've talked to, they usually have one of each.
One of each, okay.
And, carry it both, they'll be videoing for a minute and then they'll, take pictures, they'll video an area and then maybe take some still shots from that video. I'm very low key in that, like I said, I used to have a camera around my neck at all times. Now it's more my phone, just to, but like I said, I want to capture people. And I love, the other night I was going back and looking at all of my photos from when the kids were little. And, I have all these photo books, that I've done through like Shutterfly online. And that's the thing that I love with photos. Like you said, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And when I go back and look at my pictures, it kind of brings me back to that moment.
Yeah.
And I actually came across a lot of pictures from my high school and my college days here at Spring Hill. And there were pictures of, the Phi Mu's and the Tri Deltas out there and some of the games that we used to, play. And some, I was pledge trainer for a year. And so I see some of my pledge, the pledges that I trained. And I was seeing different pictures and it just brought, pictures of my roommate and I in O'Leary. And I'm like, oh my gosh,
man.
So that's what I love is that you get to kind of relive those times when you look at those pictures.
I'd love to see some if they're ever handy.
I will, the next time I come over and see you, then I'll bring some.
Sounds good. Do you feel that, you said like you have the camera around your neck to get everything. Do you feel that can take you out of the moment? Because I feel like I'll be in a gorgeous atmosphere or cool concert or something good happening, and I'll be trying to, photograph it. But do you feel like it makes you less present?
Yes, I have. And I think that's why I have stepped back a little bit and used my phone, because my phone doesn't seem as intrusive as the camera. Because sometimes I would find that I wasn't being present in the moment. And so I have tried to kind of step back a little bit and be a little bit more present. And another thing, if you like photography, you're always the person that's behind the camera. So there was a while I would look at all the pictures and I'm like, I'm not in any of these. And it really kind of hit me. And so now if I'm with my family or my friends or wherever, I will stop a stranger and say, would you please take a picture of all of us? Because, I want my kids to be able to look back at pictures and see me in there with them. So I think it's very important for those of us who love to take pictures that we step from behind the camera and be in some of those pictures as well.
I agree.
Yeah.
And lastly, with the evolution of cameras and digitalizing the phones, how has the evolution of the big pharma been in medicine?
Oh, gosh.
Just in your time in the industry.
In my time in the industry, I've seen so many changes. I can remember when I started, I would have a trunk full of all kinds of giveaways and, pens and notepads and bags and all kinds of stuff that, you'd go into the office and sometimes you almost felt like Santa Claus because you were, giving all of this stuff to the staff. And, that is no longer part of it, that we don't really give anything out. We really just go in to speak to the physicians about the products. We still do some lunches with them, but not to the extent that we used to. We will provide dinner programs, to do education, but not as much as we did before. It's become a more, just a more regulated industry, which, you see that with a lot of industries now with all the rules and stuff. But it definitely, there was a lot of different pharmaceutical companies, and there still are, but some of them and the PBMs and stuff, they have kind of come together. And so you have like the big three, or, you have the little ones being bought up by the big ones. And so that's happened. To see a lot of the different companies that were like big in one day that maybe they've been bought up by another company or by another company. I've seen a lot of that happen in the 30 years that I've been in there.
Sounds good. I really appreciate you coming on this morning and dealing with the technical difficulties we had earlier.
Hey, that's all a part of it, Ethan. I appreciate you letting me be a part of this, and I wish you the very best of luck in your endeavors.
Yes, ma'am. Same to you and your son on his journey. I would like to personally thank everyone who tuned into this episode of the SHC Division of Business podcast. Our aim is to give young professionals insight into their desired field or potential job of choice. If you gain anything from this, or have any compassion whatsoever, please share with someone you see fit.